Guys, happy Friday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us. As usual, I am super excited to have my good friend, our developer evangelist, Mr. Micah Smith. Micah, how are you on this Friday?
I'm good. I'm coming to you live from the Automation Anywhere Charlotte headquarters, which is my house. So happy to be here and happy to talk about some ChatGPT stuff today.
Awesome. Yeah, when do we get the tour? Maybe we should do like a tour thing, like one of these like MTV Cribs for anybody who remembers
Yeah,
that old show. I'm gonna be dating myself, but
this is my plant and that's my shelf over there, and that's it. And
it's
none of
kind of
that
like
is
between
real.
two ferns. It's like between a plant and between a shelf. It's
Yeah,
close. It's close.
yeah.
I see you. Um, well, excited to a couple of weeks ago we did LinkedIn audio with our friend and the CTO of Automation Anywhere with Prince, and we talked a little bit about we've been talking about what's on everybody's mind, which is generative AI, um, specifically OpenAI and ChatGPT. But obviously, again, there's a number of ML packages and packages that you can leverage with the Automation Success platform. But when we spoke last and we did one of these events, we talked, we introduced the fact that there was a new package. And so today, for our audience, really excited, we're going to have a live demo and walkthrough. Well, tell me a little bit about what you're going to be doing with the session today, Micah.
Yeah, so last time we spoke, we had just released that package, I believe. And what we want to do today is walk through the process of where do you get the package? How do you download it? How do you get it installed, whether you're using Automation 360 Enterprise or using Community Edition? We want to make sure everyone can get it installed. We're going to go through the process of grabbing an API key from OpenAI so that we can actually interface with their GPT-3 engine. And then we're just going to do like a really basic test on making sure the package is working and getting some kind of response. And so I think that'll be a good way for people to be able to see, like, how do I actually use this? How do I implement this into a bot? We'll probably just do something really simple because we want to focus on just getting that package working. But afterwards, I think it would be good if we talk about some of the ways that this could be implemented into some kind of more realistic business bots or use cases.
Yeah, I think there's no shortage of ideas, and big shout out to all the developers out there in the Automation Anywhere community that are sharing their solutions. Some super cool stuff that we see in the feed. You guys are using the hashtags. We're reposting them. I think on our Automation 360 page in particular, we're highlighting a lot of the developer content, but on the corporate page as well. So keep that coming. And during the course of this conversation, be sure to comment and ask the questions. We're here live. We got Micah live here to respond, and I'm excited to talk through where you guys are thinking what's next. I had an interesting conversation just prior to this actually, because we're going to do a conversation in a couple of weeks with the lead at Bain and Company, and he was talking about he's been doing this for quite a few years, and all of a sudden sort of he's like he brought up this idea of why did the light switch just all of a sudden go off in November, and 100 million people now are talking about it, using it, doing all these things. So I think it's a really interesting time. Ideas, like I said, are flowing left and right. So keep them coming. Let's chat. That's why we're here. So we'll be monitoring the feed in the comments, and yeah. So Micah, you want to take us through through the demo?
Let's switch over to my screen here and we'll get started. All right, so let's jump right in. We want to do 4 things during this session. Number 1, we want to download the OpenAI ChatGPT package from BotStore. We're going to talk about exactly how to do that. There's technically two approaches, so I'll show you both of those. We're going to install the new OpenAI ChatGPT package into a control room. You'll either do this on community or enterprise. Again, I'll show you both of those options and talk through the best approach there. We're going to get an API key from OpenAI. I'll show you exactly where to get that. If you don't have an account yet, we'll talk about the account creation process and getting that set up. And then finally, we'll build a demo to test an automation. And we just want to make sure that our API key plus the package are working well together. And we'll just do a really basic test for this video. But I want to encourage you to try out and play with different capabilities of this package. All right, so let's start by heading over to BotStore. I'm going to close this guy. I'm here at botstore.automationanywhere.com. If I come to the top here and search for OpenAI or just start typing that, the OpenAI ChatGPT package is the very first response that shows up. So I'm going to click on that one. And while that's loading, I want to talk about the fact that what's really unique about Automation Anywhere is that we're able to push out these packages off cycle release, right? So the packages aren't necessarily tied to the actual control room services and microservices that end up being updated during a normal release. So this is a really cool capability of Automation Anywhere that enables us to do cool stuff like this, where we can just like publish this stuff and make it available. All right, so we've got the OpenAI ChatGPT package page. I have signed in already. You will have to sign in to BotStore in order to download this. But I'm going to click right here where it says Get Package. Now, yours may not show these two if you haven't actually downloaded this already. When you do it for the very first time, it's going to prompt you with a message that says you can either add it to your control room directly or download it as a zip. If you're going to add it to your control room directly, you would have to be using Automation Anywhere Enterprise Cloud Edition, right? I think this may work with on-prem, but it would depend on your firewall being opened up to BotStore. So the safest way to guarantee that you're getting it is to download it as a zip. And when you click this, it's going to come up with this little message, and it will start the download here. This is the best way to get it. This is the way that I like to do it. Yes, you can install it directly into control room, and basically what's happening there is we're sending it directly from BotStore to your control room and doing the installation for you. It's the exact same thing if you get the zip and just download it, so I just do it this way. All right, we did mention, at least in the intro I mentioned, that you can do this in Community Edition or you can do this in Enterprise. It can be on-prem, it can be on cloud, doesn't really matter. I'm going to log into Community Edition for this one. The normal way that you would install a package if you're just building one from scratch is you would essentially use the package SDK, you would compile it, you would get a jar file. You would upload that jar file right here. You can't see it here because I'm in Community Edition, but normally there would be an Enterprise, there is a box with an up arrow that enables me to upload a jar file. Because we downloaded it from Community Edition, what we're actually getting is the package that has been packaged together with a sample bot. So what we need to do instead is we're going to go to this Automation tab, and I'm going to click this Import Bots. And when I click Import Bots, I can import a zip file of a downloaded automation. So I'm going to click that. So I've got my ChatGPT package that we just downloaded. I have the option to skip or overwrite if it already exists. I'm just going to leave it at the default of skip, and I'll hit import. Now, what actually installs is a little bit different if I'm using Community Edition versus if I'm using Enterprise Edition. So if we open up our zip file there, let me go back to downloads. Here's our zip. So if we take a look at the zip file, what we see inside of it is we have an Automation Anywhere folder, and then we have a bunch of jar files, right? And those jar files are essentially all of the required jars or the required packages to make this sample automation work. If I open up this folder right here for Automation Anywhere, I can see that I'm greeted with the root of a BotStore folder. Inside of BotStore, I have an OpenAI package folder. And then inside of that, I have the bot that's included with that BotStore download. Now, because I'm using Community Edition, I don't have access to that bot store directory, right? It just doesn't show up. So this sample bot doesn't actually install for Community Edition, right? I don't see it, but the package itself will still install. If I'm using Enterprise Edition, either on-prem or in cloud, when I install this, what I should see is that I have a second folder here at the same level of bots that's called Bot Store. Again, assuming you have permissions for this based on your role. Inside of that, I should find a folder that says OpenAI package. Inside of that, I should find just a really basic demo bot that you could go and configure without having to build it yourself. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that. It is slightly different if you are using Enterprise versus Community Edition. But I'm on Community Edition, so I'm showing you that experience. All right, so what we can do is we will go to the packages directory here. We want to validate that our package installed. It was called OpenAI. Right here it is. If I click on that, I can see the OpenAI package. I can see that I have one action in it. And so we'll be able to use that. Let's go back here and let's start building out the automation using that first. So I'm going to click into my bots directory here. I'm going to add a new folder that I'm just going to call OpenAI. I'll hit create folder. And here I will create a OpenAI demo bot and hit create and edit. Okay. So let's drag over the OpenAI ChatGPT action and plop it right there. Now, we have a couple fields we have to fill out. The first being the OpenAI API key. So let's go and get that. And I'm going to go to openai.com. We'll go back to the home page here so I can show you this from start to finish. I'm going to click at the top in the menu where it says API. And I'm going to click Login. Now, if you don't have an account already, you have the ability to sign up. I'm not going to show you that process because it's really simple, like just fill out your name and your email address and some basic details. I've already done that, so I'm just going to click this Continue with Google so we can really get into this. But if you don't have an account yet, I would encourage you to go sign up. I think you get a couple, like so many free requests on their API. So you'll be able to try this same thing that we're doing. On the top right corner, I'm going to click on Personal, and I'm going to click View API Keys. Okay, and this is where I can see any API keys I've already generated. Because we're doing this all together, I'm going to click Create New Secret Key, and I'm going to copy that to my clipboard. Okay, I'm going to come back over to my automation, and I'm going to go to Insecure String here, and I'm just going to paste that in. Now, if I was doing this for real, right? Like on a real automation build, I'd probably want to put this into a credential and then reference that credential. You can do that over here by going to Manage and then Packages, or I'm sorry, Manage and then Credentials. And you'll be able to create a locker. A locker has one or more credentials. A credential has one or more attributes. And I would enter a specific attribute that would have this as my API key. Now, the next thing that we need to fill out is the model. So let's go back here to the documentation, and down at the bottom here in the API reference, we can see models. And this enables us to see all the different models that are available as a part of this API endpoint. There's a bunch of them here. They don't have great descriptions right here. So what I would suggest doing is right-clicking right here on Playground. I'm going to open that in a new tab. And Playground is where I really have the ability to try this out. So write a tagline for a company selling hand sanitizer. Clean hands, healthy life, keep germs away with our hand sanitizer, right? All right, so I was able to just test out this GPT-3 endpoint. I'm testing it right now with a specific model of DaVinci 003. If I click this drop down, I can see all of the different compatible models, and I can see a description of each. And notice that each of them has kind of like a different specialty or a different strength. So if I look at Text DaVinci 003, it says that it's got its strengths are complex intent, cause and effect, creative generation, search, summarization for audience. So if I'm doing text-based work, Text DaVinci 003 sounds like a good option. If I scroll down here and look at the Code DaVinci 002, this one's more for understanding and generating and translating code. So if I was using this to generate code, maybe I want to have a JavaScript execute that, or I'm sorry, JavaScript generated so that I can make a call to the control room API, I would make that request to Code DaVinci 002. Because we're just going to do something really simple with our demo, I'm just going to use this Text DaVinci 003. So I'm going to go back to the Open API documentation. I'm just going to copy this name of the model right here so I don't have any spelling errors or anything like that. We're going to use Text DaVinci 003. If you want to change that to a different one and you want to try your sample on a code one, you could do that. There's Code DaVinci 002, but I'm doing mine on the Text DaVinci 003. Okay. The next field here is where I give a prompt, and the prompt is really what I'm asking for from GPT-3 and specifically the Text DaVinci 003 model. So what I'm going to put here in the prompt will just be something goofy. Create a catchphrase for a super handsome, creative developer evangelist who creates videos about automation anywhere. I'm asking for a friend. So we'll get the response to that one. You can put whatever you want there though, just as a prompt. My max response length is basically how much I want the model to return back to me as far as text. I can set a limit for that. This is specifically helpful when I'm concerned with like how many hits to the API or how many tokens am I using. You can look at the pricing for their API. It's actually very, very inexpensive, but you know, you want to set a cap here because you don't want it to necessarily write an entire book. This is actually the number of tokens that will be represented in the response. And one token is roughly 4 English text characters. So you can play around with that a bit. If you want to see more about the max response length, they have reference to that in the documentation as well. Secondly is temperature. Temperature is basically how risky I want the model to be. If I put this closer to a 1, it's going to have more creative responses for me, and it's going to be more diverse when it responds back to me. Closer to 0 is going to be a strict, refined answer. So you might want to play around with the temperature. Again, there are references to this in the documentation, so you can see how that works. You can also play around with both of these fields in the playground. So if I want to bump up the max response length or play with the temperature some, I can do that. All right, the last thing is we do want to get a response from this. So we're going to map that to our sample string. I'm going to hit save. And we want to display the results of how the model is coming back to us. So I'm going to have a message box here. I'm just going to press F2 and we will display sample string. So just to be clear, sample string is going to hold the response from the API request to the GPT-3 endpoint, and sample string is going to display that for us. So let's go ahead and test this, and let's figure out what my new catchphrase is going to be. Looks like my mug just disappeared when I took a drink. Automation everywhere with the super handsome creative dev evangelist. Unleash your automation potential. Probably not going to use that one, but it did a great job of getting that back to me. There are tons of opportunities to implement this within your automations, to clean up data, to format data, to summarize responses, to generate responses. So super excited to see where our developer community is able to take this. I'm super excited to see some of the creativity that you guys are able to post on LinkedIn. So be sure to check out this package. Again, it's available at botstore.automationanywhere.com. You can download it, you can install it, you can use it if you're on Community Edition or if you're on Enterprise, either one. Post your videos. I want to see some creative responses though. Gabe, let's get back together. All
Good
right.
stuff. Good stuff, Micah. So do we have to officially call you the most handsome, charming, kind, smart?
The guy in the mirror does every day, you know? So I wouldn't, his words, not mine. Yeah, no, that was,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
we had background audio going. My apologies. Yeah, no, that was a quick demo just to show exactly how to set that thing up and get it working. I think what is really interesting there is the prompts, though, right? And obviously, I did like a really goofy one just because I was working off the cuff there. But I think the prompt concept is really interesting, and I think it's something that we naturally are not good at. And
Yeah, if you recall when Mahir was on the panel at Davos at the World Economic Forum, there's a ton of great minds on that panel. But one of the things that came up was this concept of prompt engineering, as a new career, a new way of thinking, a new thing. Just generally, when it comes to prompts and entering the queries, how many times do you think, or just personally, how many times do you rerun a prompt to get to a desired outcome?
I mean, I'll usually run it a couple times, but that's where like that temperature configuration can come into handy, because you can like try out like, oh, I'm going to amp up the temperature a little bit, and it gets a little bit more creative. So depending on the type of request I'm building, I'll do that. I would say that we've kind of been trained to be dumb when it comes to robots, right? Like if we think about invoking Alexa, we all started off by like asking really complex questions and she never got it, right? And so
Right.
then we had to like learn to ask really dumb requests of Alexa so that she can actually understand what we're doing. The same thing happens like when you call your internet company and you like have a problem and it says like, tell me in your own words what's going on. And you try and do that, and the response every single time is like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get that. So
Yeah.
we're used to like having to ask really bad prompts. And I think where Chat GPT is really different is that you can ask like really, really detailed prompts and get an even higher quality response. And I think that's some of what you're alluding to with this prompt engineering is like the better that you write something, the better quality you're going to get out of it. So the value of Chat GPT in your automation is directly related to the quality of the prompts that you're writing. And it could be really
How
simple stuff or really advanced.
because I am admittedly not a coder, not a techie by any stretch. But with regards to, I've seen the use cases of people writing code or using ChatGPT to write code. Talk to me about those kind of prompts. Excuse me. Clever titles for your LinkedIn profile is one thing, but getting the right code back, for instance, as we start to talk about more real use cases and whatnot. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's some definite helpful use cases when it comes to automation anywhere, right? Like if I need to write a regular expression, I can give some examples and prompt ChatGPT to write that regular expression for me. And it's going to do a really good job because regular expressions are typically like a bit of a standardized format that I'm trying to find. So it might be something like a social security number or an email address. That regular expression basically sets what that format's going to be. And they can be kind of tricky to write if you haven't done them before. So ChatGPT can be really helpful in that area. Write a description of the kind of regular expression you're trying to build, give some examples, see what it pops out, and then go to a website like regexer.com so that you can actually test that out, right? Like put a bunch of your examples and then test to make sure the thing actually works. I would say that when it comes to code generation, you definitely have to be a bit careful with ChatGPT, right? And an example I'll give is I ask it to use Python to interface with our control room API in Automation Anywhere. And it comes back with a very confident response that, hey, you use this particular library, but it was referencing an Automation Anywhere Python package that doesn't even exist, right? So when it's referencing libraries that don't exist and there's not like a pip package for that, you're kind of like, hey, you totally made this up and you didn't come back and tell me like, hey, this might
Like
be
going
totally
rogue.
yeah. So if like a junior developer does that and hands it over to their senior dev or for review, you're going to be like, what on earth did you just do? Like, that's not even a thing. So I think if we look at like where ChatGPT is going, especially when it comes to code dev and even information, we need some sense of confidence, right? Like, are you sure that's the right answer? And someone in the comments was making a joke about we should ask it who Micah Smith is. Someone on the product team did that recently on a internal call that we had, and they were using this same package, and they prompted ChatGPT of like, who is Micah Smith from Automation Anywhere? And it came back and said that Micah Smith is the chief product officer of Automation Anywhere, and gave this full background that like is not.
Congratulations on the promotion.
Yeah,
I didn't
so
know.
I guess I got promoted. Yeah, so you do have to be careful sometimes with what you're doing, but when it comes to the prompt engineering, I think that's a really important thing. I could say, do an analysis of the stock Apple, right? And see what it comes back with. But if I said, like, generate a stock analysis report and I asked for the actual sections, right? I want to see like a company overview, stock performance over the last year, and the company outlook. I'm going to get a much better response that I could like reasonably use for something, as opposed to just asking like kind of an open-ended dumb question. So I think as much as possible, you want to try and tell it the things that you want in the format that you want back, so that you can have some reasonable response that you can trust.
It's kind of funny though, right? Kind of to your point about Alexa, Siri, etc. Like, there's no right. My family makes fun of me all the time for asking some, to me, basic question of Siri, and they're like, "There's no way it's going to answer that, Dad. Like, what? Like, don't be an idiot, you know." But also just fundamentally, like what we're taught, right? Which is, ask the right question, get the right answer. I think it's really profound, like how we're coming full circle. What I want to do though also is go back to the comments and maybe address some of those. And thank you everyone for participating in the conversation. So where do we want to start? Oh, I know. We should prompt it to ask who the best RPA developer evangelist is. I think we know the answer, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
I've asked that. I don't know. I would be too hurt to hear the answer, maybe. If it doesn't know.
Let's see what else we have. Well, I appreciate. Oh, it looks like Carolina's on the line from Nike. Hi, Carolina. And Matt Manning is referencing my fake background. No, actually, it's not fake. My shoe collection. Yes, I am. Both Mike and I are both sneakerheads. For those of you that don't know, and we do chat often about sneakers. And so, yes. Fueled by my son's passion and energy to find and these rare shoes and whatnot, and find the best deals on them because they're crazy. I've been able to amass a nice little collection that I actually wear. So thanks for noticing. But I think there was another more technical question here somewhere, Mike. Something about a jar or something. It doesn't make sense to me at all.
Yeah, so I did see that one. Basically, yeah, he's right that Automation Anywhere is essentially executing jars, which are Java archive files. And if you think of like what an automation actually is, like the example of the one we just built, it's essentially a JSON file plus 2 jar files, because I use 2 different packages. Each of those packages that we have in the Automation Anywhere control room is a jar. And within that, we have the actions that are defined that you create, right? So there's a bunch that come out of box. I think there's 400 plus that come out of box with Automation Anywhere. There are additional packages that you can download from our bot store, just like we did with that ChatGPT package. But then we also have a package SDK, which enables you to build your own custom packages. And what I really like about that is you can literally create interfaces to anything you want. If there's an API, cool, call that. If it's some Java library you want to use, you can reference that and leverage it. We did one with the Stanford NLP library, and that's on Bot Store as well. So if you want to do some like natural language processing that doesn't have a call out to another application, but is all inbuilt, you can download that package. It's kind of huge. It's like a gig, I think, because it includes that entire library for their NLP model. But you can use that to do parsing of natural language. So there's lots of cool packages to check out. But yes, a jar file is what a package is, and that's how bots are assembled. And what I think is really cool about that is when I build a bot on a specific version of a package, it's always going to reference that same version of the package. So even if there's a new version of that package that comes out, my old bot will still work. And if I want to upgrade it, I can, but I don't necessarily have to. Speaking of which, there's actually a new version of this package coming out in the next week or so, I think. We've added capabilities for the ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo. So there's going to be a new action that we'll be releasing relatively soon. We're doing some testing on it right now, but be on the lookout for that. And just like I mentioned in the live stream there, like we can release this stuff really quickly, and it doesn't have a dependency on doing a full upgrade of our entire platform. It's just updating a package, and you can install it and keep going.
That's awesome. Anything with the turbo, nomenclature, I'm down. I'm a turbo kind of guy.
Yeah, so that is actually the true ChatGPT model. So that is truer to ChatGPT. What we were showing in the example that we have right now is technically referencing GPT-3, but the GPT-3 Turbo is 3.5.
Got it. There's a couple more questions popping up. Simon Green, not our Simon, asked, what are some of the security considerations when using the package? How secure is the data going into the prompt?
So let's see. That would be secure. I mean, it's going to make a request over HTTPS to that API. So there shouldn't be any security considerations specific to that. If you wanted to, I guess we probably could do it in the future where the prompt could be in a credential. If you really wanted to do it that way, I guess we could do that. But for right now, you can still do anything that's in a string as the prompt. But if there were really specific considerations for that, we could probably do a credential for the prompt in the future if that was a need.
I'm curious too, asking the audience. We've had a few conversations now. We've got some social streams going on where people are sharing their ideas and whatnot. But I'm going to put Micah on the spot here and offer him up to the wolves. What do you want to see Micah build next? Whether it's generative AI, and we do these AA, we would call Automation Anywhere, or AA Illustrates was typically what we call our demos, and we do them semi-weekly, etc. But do put that in the comments as well. What do you want to see built? I see a question here. What are some common use cases, or some common cases where the ChatGPT can be integrated in Automation Anywhere and Automation 360?
Yeah, I think it depends on what your industry is and what kind of use cases you're taking on. Another one that I saw recently that I thought was really interesting was the ability to parse text from an OCR document, right? So one way of doing that might be like sending a PDF to Document Automation or through IQBot, or using the parsing capabilities of GCP or Azure. But sometimes you may want to try to have ChatGPT do that, or have ChatGPT as the backup to that. And so what you could do is essentially OCR an entire document and then ask it for the certain pieces of data you want out of that. So let's say that it was an enrollment form for a financial services company. I could OCR the entire document, send that full text to ChatGPT, prompting it with like, okay, what was the person's name? What was their social security number? What was their address, right? I could ask those kind of things to get it out, which is especially helpful on situations where we've got non-standardized form types. And if like data could be everywhere and it doesn't follow a standard format, or if it's just free text and someone's just like writing something, I think of things like contracts and things like that. ChatGPT could be really helpful in helping to parse some of that stuff. I think it really is going to depend on the creativity of the developer and the user, though, right? Like that's why, to what we mentioned earlier, like the prompt engineering is a thing, And I would encourage you to go check out some of these like top prompt lists. I signed up for one a couple weeks ago, and it was like the 500 best prompts
Yeah.
for ChatGPT. And some of them are like really interesting things that I would not have thought of. And the way that they're written gets back like really well formatted responses. So I would encourage you to check some of those to like kind of spur your creativity, and share the ones that are working really well for you, right? There's some really interesting ways to get high quality responses, and I think trusted responses out of ChatGPT, but it's really dependent on you asking a specific question and giving that guidance of exactly what you want out and in what kind of format you expect the response.
Yeah, I think the what I've seen too, and those prompt sort of hacks or lists, if you will, are really fascinating actually. Um, Celestine also asked, and I think we just kind of addressed it, Celestine. What other areas? I can tell you that being a marketer, being in the digital marketing world now for way too long, probably. I see a lot of use cases for content generation, and yes, there are opportunities there, but kind of to Micah's point as well. And admittedly, I haven't done exhaustive testing and optimization yet. That's one place where you can generate, say, a blog or whatever, but they do sort of look like like the typical sort of generic SEO optimized, bot written kind of content. I think the takeaway from that for me is I'm curious to see what generative AI is going out and bringing back to form its opinion or to deliver the data. And I'm looking for keywords, and I'm looking how it's positioning things, because it's obviously getting that feedback from somewhere, and this is what it's coming back with. So to me, it's like, is this how the conversation is out there in the great the great wide world out there, or are they just completely making this up, like just using some keywords and stuff? So I think that's interesting. I think those prompts are interesting. One of the things that I'm really excited about that we're doing with internally, we have our Automation at Automation Anywhere program, our internal COE that builds automations to help us as individuals at the company, as teams at the company. And recently, one of my colleagues asked about putting captions on YouTube videos or on any videos. And actually, traditionally, that's a really involved process that takes a lot of time and can be really expensive. And not just the captions, but then the localization of the captions. It's in a business world, it's probably not as simple as you think, especially when you're talking about thousands of videos. We have training courses, we have demos, we have any number of types of videos, right? And so it can be very quickly can add up and become a big stack. But one of the things I'm most excited about, and the things that I started doing, was basically taking the transcript that's auto-generated from YouTube. So I upload the file, take the transcript, go to ChatGPT and say, make an SRT file, which is the file type that you need for closed captioning, from this transcript. So it does that, converts it, and then prompt it with convert to or localize in Japanese, in Spanish, in whatever language, right? And so now it would take days or weeks and cost literally thousands of dollars. I can pretty much do it. We're still sort of working it out, but the reason to me that it's so important is because when I think about why we're here as a company, the mission, why it was founded with Mihir and Niti and Rushab and Encore and the rest of the company, why we exist, it was to empower everyone with technology. And if we can't have the technology in their language, right? If we can't have learning courses and training courses and all these things, and they don't, then effectively, right, they don't have access, right? So I think it's a really cool project that we're working on to really gain, to give access to those folks around the world, to take advantage of the technology. So anyway, that's one.
Let's take that one step further to say,
yeah,
let's then put the SRT file that's been translated into Amazon Polly, which is their text to speech, and we can dub over any video, right?
beautiful.
So now all of a sudden I'm speaking Spanish, and I'm horrible at Spanish.
Don't tell my kids about this. All right, let's make sure that they don't get any ideas. I already know that the kids are out there doing their homework and stuff. But all right, let's see what any other questions out there, guys. Anybody want to Ask Micah anything.
No pressure.
No pressure. Yeah, no pressure. Well, I think there's some good ideas out there. And by the way, for those of you in the thread that we haven't responded to, we'll be sure to address your comments and reply. And I think in a couple of weeks we are going to have a healthcare specific. Actually, we've got a couple coming up. We've got 2 LinkedIn audios coming up. One with Bain and Company, talking about some real world enterprise applications, referencing some of our customers and what they're doing from a sit dev perspective, citizen development perspective, and scaling, leveraging generative AI. It's going to be a really good conversation. Right after that, we're going to have a session with Dr. Chow, our industry leader for healthcare and life science, and we're going to talk a little bit specifically about generative AI and intelligent automation in the healthcare space and what's happening there. So 2 really good upcoming events. So look out for those. Micah, as always, thank you. Appreciate the demo. The demo will be up. Obviously, you can access it here, but we'll have it on YouTube, of course, and available for. Sorry, I'm just looking at some of the comments here. Make sure we don't miss anything before we go. But again, thanks for the time, everyone.
Can it be used to create a workflow in Automation Anywhere? Stay tuned. Maybe one day.
Oh,
I saw that one. Like, and then one more. Can you tell us any suggestions for aspirant AA like us? Building 100%, right? Get experience with hands-on stuff. Don't just sit through slides or watch training. You have to get hands-on. Follow the videos we're doing. Go through and do it with me. We've got a bunch of stuff on YouTube. So follow with me and, build alongside me. Try out our challenges. That's the best way to learn this stuff. Get hands-on. Sometimes it'll work. Sometimes it won't. Sometimes you mess up a configuration. Sometimes you get it right. That's how you learn. And you break stuff and you fix it and you work along.
Yeah, there's no substitute for that, right? I'm a huge basketball guy. I think some of you guys know, get shots up, get those reps. And of course, in AAU, there's a bunch of courses, right? In Automation Anywhere University. And there's no shortage of demos and trainings and walkthroughs that Mike has done previously. By the way, just really quick, I am remiss. I meant to mention it earlier, but it's International Women's History Month. And the other day was International Women's Day. And I just wanted to do a quick shout out to 3 of the most important women in my life. My mom, my wife, and my daughter. Clearly, I'm blessed in that regard. And I'm also blessed to have so many great colleagues here at the company doing amazing things, so many great customers. Carolina's out there. I saw her in the chat. We celebrate all of you, and just want to do a quick shout out before we take off. Mike, any women that inspire you while we're here?
Thanks for putting me on the spot. Yeah. No, I mean, that's a great thing about working in Automation Anywhere. There's a lot of women in leadership roles, and it's great to be able to learn from them. I'm mentored by a lot of the women here, which is completely awesome because they have great experience and have definitely helped me to grow in my career.
Awesome. Well, thank you to all you ladies around the world doing amazing things. Keep going. You inspire all of us. And with that, I think we'll sign off, and we'll see you on the next LinkedIn event. So stay tuned.
Cool. Thanks, guys.